Hi, I'm Daniel Lucas, and welcome to Book 101 Review. Book 101 is all about the books that I've read for the last 40 years. And today I have my special guest. He's a legal technology expert, indie writer, and publisher, and the author of the book Death to Algorithms, none other than Mr. Tobias Mark Jensen. Welcome, Mr. Tobias, on Book One Man Review. And can you please introduce more about yourself that I miss?
Most certainly. So, hi everyone. My name is Tobias. I'm based in Copenhagen, Denmark. I've written this book, as you can see, called Death to Algorithms. It's based on my experience as a legal counselor through a few years. I've been working in small startups, in big software companies, different places. Now I work for myself. I'm independent. And over the last few years, I thought a lot about the impacts of digital technology, how social media, streaming services, and dating apps impact our lives. And all those reflections have now taken the form of this book called Death to Algorithms.
And thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. Thank you. So the title itself, The Death to Algorithms, is intentionally provocative. Is it your argument that we should destroy the system entirely, or is it about dismantling the power over our lives?
That's such a good question. And you're right, it is a very provocative title, and that's completely intentional. My working title was At the Mercy of Algorithms, but I felt it was too soft because what I'm really saying is that people should. So we can't fully avoid using digital services. Obviously, social media, streaming, many apps are very has become a part of our life. So we can't really turn our backs to them completely. What I'm trying to say with the title is that recommender systems on all these digital platforms need to have a much smaller influence over our lives. So to sum that up, I think that algorithms need to die so humans can live more, which means that we need less passive consumption, less attention farming, less time spent in front of a screen, and more time spent with each other, with nature, with culture, with hobbies and interests, with intellectual stimuli that goes beyond just 5 seconds clips on TikTok. So we need to become more humans. In order for us to become more human, we need to let algorithms die a bit.
Yes, indeed. And at its heart, in your book, more a critic of the algorithms themselves or the corporate profit models that dictate their design.
It is primarily the corporate profit model, as you say. Um, so my book concerns the attention economy as such. The attention economy is driven by advertisement, specifically targeted advertisement. If you look at companies like Meta is obviously a $1 billion company, and they earn approximately 98% of their profits from targeted advertisement. That's pretty spectacular considering how much they have been going on, or how much they have been going on regarding AI, regarding the metaverse, regarding these weird AI chatbots that they have implemented on their services. But still, the majority of their incomes comes from our attention, which is the attention economy. Google is the other major player in the attention economy. They have a more diverse revenue model compared to Meta, but our attention is still what drives the majority of their profits. YouTube is also owned by Google. So besides Meta and Google, The attention economy is obviously much larger than that. Amazon is another major player in it. Apple makes the hardware for the attention economy. NVIDIA makes these GPUs that are used to train AI, so they indirectly have a very important part in the attention economy as well. Who else? Microsoft, they are also making a lot of revenue on target advertisement. So as I see it, this is a very important part. This whole economy is automatically governed many times by algorithms. This work is not a very technical book. I take a technical look at how the algorithms at Netflix, Facebook, TikTok, and Tinder are developed, how they were developed, and how they are used today. But I do so on a very high level, so most readers would be able to read it and understand what I'm trying to say. But I think that the book's major contribution is my reflection about the social consequences and the cultural consequences, um, which is a part of our addiction to these kind of digital services. In the books, I rarely use the term algorithms, actually. I use the terms entertainment engines and the matchmaking engines. And that's to avoid the more technical discussions, because I'm not interested in trying to teach people how they can build algorithms. I'm interested in making people understand how they impact their lives. So it's a practical book, but I kind of extrapolate from that and reflect a lot about what these technical things actually mean in people's lives.
And thank you so much for sharing to the world, Mr. Johnson. You argue that these engines dictate our lives. Can you give us an example of a critical life decision, perhaps in a love or career, that you believe is now overwhelming, shaped by algorithm for better or worse?
Certainly. So regarding social media, I think that the problem is not as much that they drive our decisions. It's more problem that they drive our indecisions. When we spend a lot of time on TikTok and Instagram, for instance,
Mm-hmm.
these services are made to be addictive. So if we spend too much time on these services, it's like empty calories that could have been and we're spending time on them that could have been used better. If, for instance, young people were using a TikTok 5 hours a day because they thought it was very fun and it was something that contributed to their growth as humans, then I would not have a problem with them. But if you ask even the young people themselves, they will tell you that a lot of the time they spend on TikTok is really compulsory. It's something they can't control. And I know it. I think everyone knows the feeling where you just reach for your phone for no apparent reason. You just need to look at it. Why do we do that so often? Obviously, there are some engineers in Silicon Valley that have designed these devices to addict us in this way. So on one hand, we have social media platforms and smartphones and this whole economy. And on the other hand, we use this to carry out public conversations, to learn about the world, even to meet people. And when we talk about meeting people, that's where dating apps come into the picture. That's perhaps the most clearest examples, because dating apps advertise that they can give us love in our life, that we can use them to form relationship and meet our ideal partners, which is great, and it sounds great. But the problem is that if these dating apps actually worked and they could put people together with their ideal partners, there wouldn't really be a business model for it. So how these dating apps make revenue is different from what they actually claim that they can do. So how they actually earn revenue is to get people addicted. For instance, Tinder use the swiping mechanism, and the swiping mechanism is very addictive. And you form an impression of a person in a few seconds. Mainly, it's based upon looks and status. So if you have a very nice car, and you have a picture with it, or you have, a six-pack abs, that's what catches people's attention. I'm not saying that this is what, for instance, women only are going for, but even if it's not as, um, what's the right word, straightforward, they'll still primarily based other people on looks. It doesn't matter if it's men or if it's women, um, because the ways these dating apps is designed, they encourage people to judge people from a few pictures and from a very short profile text. And that's not really the best way to get a form an accurate impression about a person. I would even argue that you can't really use digital media at all to form an accurate impression about a person. I think we've all experienced it, that we meet someone in the digital space and then we meet them in real life, and we have a very different experience with them when we meet with the person in real life. So that's why I think that the whole logic behind dating apps is a bit of an illusion, and it has created some very complex problems. For instance, there are many men. I'm a man, so I can relate to that part. There are issues for women too, of course, but that's another discussion. At least for men, there's this so-called male loneliness crisis. There's this whole incel culture, and you see there are many males who seek solace in something like OnlyFans and pornography and all that. And many men are very frustrated about this, and I can understand it. I don't think that women are to blame. I don't think women are the problem. I think it's the technology that is a problem. The way we meet people nowadays is a problem. So these algorithms will boost people's profiles, whether on dating apps or on social media, which are like spectacular in looks or have a lot of money, or just seem like very spectacular people. So there are a lot of men, and the same is true for women to some extent, but especially for men who feel like they just can't compete. So they opt out, and then they get into some, depressive internet culture where they complain with other men about how unfair the world is. And I think their complaints are valid, but I think that the problem at its root is the dating apps. And if we go even deeper, the problem is the attention economy. All this time we spend online, it isolates people from each other, and it encourages the worst behavior in us.
Mr. Jensen, tell us, the word death implies a finality. Do you see a future where we can peacefully coexist with recommendations engines, or is it a radical break the only solution?
So, for the time being, I don't think it's realistic. Unfortunately, I don't know this, of course. I don't have any prophetic abilities, unfortunately. But I imagine that over the next, let's say, 2, 3, 5 years, these challenges will not really change much. In a way, maybe I have too high thoughts of myself, but I think that with this book, I'm kind of looking ahead into the future. I think that in 5 years' time, these things that I write about now will be much more relevant than they are today. I think more and more people are waking up and realizing that the internet as we use it today is not really ideal. I am positive about technology. I think that we can use technology to our benefit and use it in a way that is good for us and good for the world. Currently, that is not possible because these tools and these services that we made are meant to addict us, and that's not what the purpose is supposed to be. Just to give you an example, let's say you are advocating to make some social change, and you have a good lifestyle. You wake up early, you eat healthy, you do all of the right things. If you spend 5 hours a day on TikTok, or 2 hours a day swiping on dating apps, or watching bad movies on streaming platforms, these things will have a very negative impact on your life. So even if you're doing everything else right, you still won't process as much as a human. And so I think that we can coexist with the algorithms, and I think more and more people need to wake up to the impacts they have on our lives. And importantly, I think that policymakers need to do something about it. So I have some very concrete policy proposals in the book. The first one is a political proposal in the United States, where I think we need to move away from complete platform protection. In the US, social media platforms such as TikTok and Facebook have been almost exempted from any liability concerning any negative impacts their recommender systems have. That's because of a rule called Section 230, which has been very much discussed and interpreted by legal scholars through the last 10, 20 years. In many cases, Facebook, for instance, have been able to win lawsuits or have lawsuits rejected by pointing to this rule and say that because it's a recommender system, essentially, we cannot be made responsible for it. So this is a very common belief among the big tech companies, and I think it's wrong. I think that when you operate a recommender system, you should be responsible for it in the same way as a journalist is responsible for his words in a newspaper. We shouldn't apply a new set of rules to the digital world. Many people will complain about that and say, hey, that's not fair. Sorry, not many people, but many of the big social media platforms, they'll complain and say that that's not fair because you can't expect us to moderate all of this content. But I think you can. Like Meta and some of the other companies, they are trying to develop super intelligent AI. Surely they can also show accountability regarding what kind of content they show people. So I think people need more insight, more transparency in general concerning how these platforms are made. And I think Facebook should be held accountable, or TikTok should be held accountable if they show a lot of depressive content to users. One of the issues are these so-called rabbit holes, where you can watch one piece of content about, let's say, depression, and then the algorithm will feed you more and more and more of these videos, and suddenly your entire feed are full of very, very depressive content, which makes you, very sad and feel bad about your life. These kind of circumstances, I think we need to be able to hold social media companies accountable. They are not allowed to claim that their recommender systems is a trade secret that they can't disclose to anyone. They need to actually be able to explain how these recommendations come about, and they need to be able to be held accountable for them in a courtroom. So that could be one approach. The other one I can explain very briefly. In the European Union, I essentially think that targeted advertisement is against the principles of GDPR. So there's not really any legal basis for targeted advertisement. Targeted advertisement is fine in one way. It makes sense that people can watch relevant ads. So, for instance, if Facebook have collected data about me that reveals that I'm into tennis, the algorithm will show me a lot of ads about tennis. And on one level, that's fine. Then I can see ads that actually interest me. The problem is all the data that Facebook collects to make these ads. And it's this data collection that I think is very problematic. I don't think that social media platforms should be allowed to have so much data about us and collect so much data, because it's none of their business what my interests are, essentially. That's the foundation that GDPR in the EU was built on. The GDPR is built on the whole idea of data ownership. So my personal data is my personal data, not the company's. So if the companies wants to process my personal data, they need my permission or they need another legal basis. I don't think that the big social media platforms have any legal basis to collect that much data about me. Certainly not if I have not consented to it. And I can't really consent because I have no insight into exactly what kind of data they have. And that's very problematic.
Indeed, interesting issue, Mr. Johnson. And on matchmaking and human connection, in the realm of dating apps, it suggests the algorithm is not just a matchmaker but an active sharper of our desire. How does being filtered through the system change that we ever look for in a partner?
So I think that back in the days when online dating was web-based, it actually worked a bit better. So the way Match.com worked very early on was that you had to fill out a questionnaire where you answered what your interests are, what you were looking for in a partner. Let's say that I was interested in a partner who had a certain degree. Let's say I wanted someone who had a law degree, and I like to play tennis in my spare time. Then, very simple, of course, this is a bit of an oversimplification, but the system back then worked in that way that if there was a woman out there who was also looking for a lawyer and also enjoyed to play tennis in her spare time, then we would be a match. So the matchmaking engine worked based on what I said I was looking for and common interests. I think that's a much better way of matching people than just looks and very short text description, because in that way I have more control over what kind of people I can meet. So I don't think that it's wrong to use online dating. I can also understand people who use dating apps. It's very hard to meet people nowadays. But I think that the interest-based, so to speak, algorithm, if we can call it that, is a much better way of matching people together. The whole problem that I have with dating apps is the addictive element and the whole business model, which is based on people paying and coming back and continue to swipe and swipe and swipe, not really fostering human connections, which they otherwise claim they want to do.
Mr. Johnson, as an author, what are your short term and long term goals?
So short term, I can tell you I'm going to self-publish this book, and I'm going to do it in a bit alternative way. So I'm offering it on sales on a site called Gumroad, and it's a very simple concept. People currently I sell it for $6. People pay $6, and then once a book is launched, I'll send them to them in a PDF file. So it's very very simple. I'm also going to sell it on Amazon, but I'm not doing this for a financial purpose. It's definitely not something I expect to get rich of, at least not in the short term. What I want with this book is to spread my ideas and get other people's to eyes on them and read on them and discuss many of the book's points with them, make people think. So I'm looking to make an impact that is more social rather than financial. In the long term, I would of course love to make a livelihood out of writing. Writing is my sense of, or sorry, my way of making sense of the world, and I learn a lot from it personally. It helps me to think clearer about the world, myself, and the times we live in. And of course, my goal is that I can help people with my writing. And long term, it would be nice to be able to make a living off of it.
Yes, and good luck to your goals and looking forward for more success, Mr. Johnson. And what would be your piece of advice for those people out there want to be author like you?
It's a tough path, I would say. There's this struggle when you want to be a writer nowadays that you can't really not use social media at all. It's very difficult. You also have to do some public speaking. That's just a part of it. And it's very paradoxical because many writers are introverted, myself included. That's why that we enjoy to write in the first place, because we like to sit in a room alone with our thoughts and express them. But nowadays, no one will really read what you have to say unless you're able to promote yourself too. To be honest, I hate that aspect of it. I don't want to become a social influencer or a, so to speak, content creator. I want to be a writer, but you have to leverage the digital platforms in some ways to promote your message. So you have to be outgoing. That's just a part of it. That's what I'm doing now. I enjoy talking with people. That's why I join podcasts like yours, so I can present my ideas, and that will also make me think more about them. So in this day and age, as a writer, I think you need to be outgoing. You need to be extroverted, even though you don't feel like it, and that's a tough aspect. And hopefully, I think that finding a reader base, it's a big struggle. That's also what I'm working on now. Finding people who share your vision and your beliefs about the world. So writing nowadays is also very community based. I currently use Substack. I don't know if I will continue to use Substack. I think it's a platform with some issues, but there is some good things about Substack as well. So I think as a writer, you need to be online, whether it's Substack or it's Ghost or it's Beehive or it's Patreon or whatever. And I think you need to be outgoing. I think you need to use your real name, put your face out there, because that adds some legitimacy. I'm personally accountable for everything I write because I don't write under a synonym. I think if you write under a synonym, it's even more difficult to get recognition and for people to read your work. So that's another aspect of it. Also, AI writing, of course, is a big thing now. And if you whenever I see people who are writing under a synonym, I automatically suspect that they're using AI to write, and that's of course not good. So yeah, you need to put your face to it. There's no other way, as I see it.
Thank you for your advice, Mr. Jensen. And can you please recommend a book or books that influence your journey?
Yes, I was actually looking forward to that question. So, if I could say name one writer that have inspired this book and whose whole style I want to copy, it would be the Israeli historian Yuval Noah Harari, who have written bestsellers like *Sapiens*, *Homo Deus*, and *Nexus*. What he does really well is that he writes nonfiction in a way that reads like fiction. So he reads, sorry, he writes engaging nonfiction, and that's what I try to accomplish as well. If I had to recommend one book which has served as almost a role model for this book, it would be "Amusing Ourselves to Death" by Neil Postman. It was published in 1985, and it concerned television. But through the lenses of today, many of the concerns that Postman shared about the television equally applies to social media today. So check that book out.
And thank you so much for that recommended books. They're highly recommended indeed. And Mr. Johnson, before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people, because my abstract essay is already in fifth season, abstract poetry in second season, and my book 101 review in fifth season too, comedy 101 third season, and my food 101 in fifth season as well. Geography 101, Love Letters, Music 101, and Movie 101 are fourth season. Science 101, Sex 101 in third season. And my baby podcast, Law 101, Mental Health 101, and Bible Verses 101. Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. So finally, Mr. Johnson, tell us the dream being kept alive is often about feeling or a purpose. Beyond plaques or chart position, what is the core feeling that makes your book will be read by millions of people?
If I had to say one word, I would use revolution. I think my book is a part of a revolution. It's not really anti-tech. I don't believe in being anti anything, but it's a revolution in the sense that we're becoming aware of certain aspects of our lives that we were not aware of before. And this awareness concerns the impacts of big tech, of the attention economy, of social media, streaming platforms, dating apps, and the attention economy, target advertisement, all these technologies and cultural artifacts that are defining our lives today. Right now, as David Foster Wallace says, we are like fish in the ocean who don't know what water is. These digital solutions, they are all around us, and we can't really take a step back and look at it from the outside. But that's what we need to practice, and we need to understand what these tech platforms are doing to our lives and our societies.
Mr. Johnson, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. So, can you please invite our listeners to support your book, your advocacy, or whatever projects that you're doing right now?
Most certainly. So, first of all, check out my book on dev2algorithms.com. Two is with the number two. And there you can find my Gumroad sales page. You can also find me on futuristiclawyer.com, where I write my newsletter about the ethics of tech.
Yes, people, let's support Mr. Johnson because if you support him, for sure, more and more empowering books like this to come. So, Mr. Johnson, thank you so much for your time.
You too. Thanks for the conversation. It was great.
Marty, come people, see you soon.